Millions of people watched the same football match, yet they walked away believing they had seen two completely different games. One side saw an unforgettable comeback. The other saw proof that modern football had lost its credibility. The strange part is that both sides point to the exact same moments as evidence. That single match, played in Atlanta on the 7th of July, 2026, became more than just a World Cup knockout tie. It became a referendum on whether the sport we love can still be trusted. But to understand why this game broke the internet, you have to start with what was at stake. On one side stood Argentina, the reigning world champions. They were carrying Lionel Messi through what everyone understood to be his final World Cup. At 40 years old, he was still the tournament's biggest attraction. He led the scoring charts. Every stadium he entered filled to capacity. Every match he played generated hundreds of millions in broadcast revenue. The commercial reality was impossible to ignore. No other athlete on the planet could generate that kind of viewership. On the other side stood Egypt. Ranked 29th in the world when the tournament began. A team almost nobody gave a chance. They had already survived a penalty shootout against Australia in the previous round. Mohamed Salah, nursing a hamstring problem, had calmly chipped the winning spot kick down the middle. Egypt had fought for every inch of their World Cup. Nothing had been given to them. That contrast matters. Because when a global superpower meets a team of overachievers, and every major decision seems to bounce one way, people start asking uncomfortable questions. Questions about money. About television audiences. About whether the sport's governing body could really afford to lose its biggest star in the round of 16. Many fans believed the tournament had a commercial incentive to keep its biggest attraction alive. Whether that belief was justified or not, it colored everything that followed. Those questions started early. 15 minutes in, Egypt scored first. A curling delivery from Marwan Atiyah found the head of centre-back Yasser Ibrahim. He powered it home. 1-0 to the underdogs. It was the first time Argentina had trailed in a World Cup match since their infamous defeat to Saudi Arabia in 2022. The champions were rattled. Cairo erupted. Then, just 5 minutes later, came the first flashpoint. Argentine fullback Nicolas Tagliafico went down inside the Egyptian penalty area under a challenge from forward Mostafa Hassan. The referee pointed to the spot. Egyptian players surrounded him in disbelief. To many watching, the contact looked soft. Soft enough that fans online immediately reached for a statistic that had been following Argentina around for 4 years. Since the start of the 2022 tournament, Argentina had been awarded 8 penalties in just 12 World Cup matches. For critics, that number was not a coincidence. It was a pattern. But here is the problem with the conspiracy narrative. If this match was scripted for Argentina, somebody forgot to tell the Egyptian goalkeeper. 23-year-old Mustafa Shobair threw himself across goal and pushed Messi's penalty away. The greatest player of his generation had just missed from 12 yards. And it was not a one-off. It made Messi the first player in World Cup history to fail from the penalty spot twice in a single tournament. Former players on television noted that Messi did not look confident. For the first time in his life, they were watching one of the greatest players on earth and were not sure the man believed in himself. Shobair was not finished. Before halftime, he denied Alexis Mac Allister. He denied Julian Alvarez. The young Egyptian goalkeeper was single-handedly holding back the champions of the world. His country dared to dream. But the biggest controversy wasn't the penalty. It wasn't even the disallowed goal that came later. It was the way that goal was taken away that would spark a global debate. 10 minutes into the second half, Egypt broke forward with breathtaking speed. Mostafa Hassan produced a dazzling zigzagging run down the right wing. He slipped the ball to Salah. Salah, with the vision that made him a legend, threaded Mostafa Zico in behind the Argentine defense. Zico stayed calm. One touch. A cool finish past Emiliano Martinez. 2-0. A breakaway goal of stunning quality. The Egyptian bench emptied. Half of Africa was on its feet. Then the referee put his finger to his ear. The video assistant referee had flagged something. Not in the Argentine box. Not in the build-up around the edge of the area. All the way back at the other end of the pitch, in Argentina's attacking third. Roughly 80 yards from where the ball had crossed the line. Moments before Egypt won possession and launched their counter, Atiyah had tangled with Argentine defender Lisandro Martinez. According to widely circulated reports and match accounts, the referee reviewed the incident and ruled the goal out. The replays showed a shirt tug and a foot stepped on. The referee walked to the pitchside monitor. He watched. He wiped the goal off the scoreboard. There was genuine confusion inside the stadium. Nobody understood what had just happened. It was only when the giant scoreboard quietly changed the number under the Egyptian flag from 2 back to 1 that Argentina fans began celebrating as if they had scored themselves. Sulla pleaded with the official. The Egyptian players were beside themselves. A goal born from 80 yards of majestic, precise football had been erased because of a shirt tug near the opposite corner flag. The reaction from the broadcast booths was instant and brutal. Former England goalkeeper Rob Green, working as an analyst on the World Feed, could not believe what he was seeing. He argued that this could not possibly fall within the remit of video review. He said the incident was a full length of the pitch away from the goal. Stepping on someone's toe 80 yards from the action was not why the technology was brought into the game. In his view, the referee had seen the tackle live, decided it was not a foul, and Egypt had been denied a 2-goal cushion for a brilliant breakaway goal. Writing in The Athletic, refereeing analyst Graham Scott described the decision as an astonishing intervention and a massive overreach of a system designed only to correct clear and obvious errors. Veteran football writer Henry Winter captured the absurdity with a joke that went around the world. He wrote that if the review had gone any further back in that Egyptian move, Tutankhamun would have been involved. He conceded it was probably the right decision by the letter of the law. But he mourned what he called one of the goals of the tournament. 80 yards of majestic movement and precise passing, gone. On radio, former England goalkeeper Paul Robinson summed up the Egyptian fury. He pointed out that the infringement was almost on Egypt's own touchline. And an Egyptian football expert relayed the mood back home: huge disappointment, total confusion about how far back a review is allowed to reach, and one question above all others. If the exact same foul had happened in the build-up to a goal by Messi, would anybody have gone looking for it? That question is the beating heart of every rigging theory. Not that officials sat in a room and planned the outcome. But that when the decisions are 50-50, the biggest star always seems to land on the right side. Now, to their eternal credit, Egypt did not collapse. 12 minutes after his goal was taken away, Zico did it again. More fine work from Hassan on the right wing. This time the finish counted. 2-0. For real this time. The Pharaohs were 11 minutes plus stoppage time away from one of the greatest upsets in World Cup history. They could taste it. The world was watching. Then the champions woke up. 79th minute. Messi's cross found Christian Romero, who powered a header home. 2-1. 83rd minute. Messi himself arrived at the edge of the box and rifled a first-time strike into the net. His 8th of the tournament. 2-2. Atlanta was shaking. Egypt was hanging on by its fingernails. Then, deep in stoppage time, came the sequence that turned suspicion into rage. Sulla went down in or around the Argentine penalty area. He was convinced he had won a penalty that would give Egypt the chance to steal the game back. The referee waved play on. No whistle. And critically, according to the frame-by-frame breakdowns that flooded social media afterward, no video review of the incident. Nor of 2 other contested moments Egyptian fans identified in the build-up. Argentina stormed down the other end. In the 92nd minute, Enzo Fernandez rose at the far post and headed the winner into the corner. 3-2. Game over. Egypt eliminated. Think about the whiplash of that sequence from an Egyptian perspective. When Egypt scored, officials went back 80 yards through the move to find a reason to erase it. When Argentina scored the winner, the appeals at the start of the very same passage of play were never examined at all. Same match. Same technology. Same referee. 2 completely different standards of scrutiny. Both of them happened to favor the team wearing blue and white. Within minutes, social media detonated. Fans posted that the tournament was rigged. Corruption on open display. Egypt had been robbed. One viral post declared flatly that the World Cup was rigged for Messi. And then came the statistic that poured gasoline on everything. A widely shared post claimed that across the tournament, video officials had reviewed 12 goals for fouls in the build-up and ruled out all 12. Meanwhile, 3 goals scored after alleged fouls in the build-up were never reviewed at all. And every single one of those 3 unreviewed goals, the post claimed, belonged to Argentina. Now, that claim came from a fan account, not from an official audit. It deserves real skepticism. Numbers like that are easy to assemble selectively and almost impossible for the average fan to verify. But it spread for a reason. It spread because it fit a pattern people believed they were already seeing with their own eyes. Earlier in the tournament, according to ESPN's own officiating expert, Messi had raked his studs down the calf and ankle of Algeria's captain. The expert described it as a red card offense. The referee gave only a foul. VAR declined to intervene. Messi stayed on the pitch. Against Austria, opponents fumed over a possible foul by Mac Allister in the build-up to a Messi goal. The goal stood without review. Add the 8 penalties in 12 matches since 2022, and for millions of fans, the Egypt match was not an isolated incident. It was the loudest note in a song they had been hearing for 4 years. So that is the case for the prosecution. It is emotional. It is compelling. Parts of it are genuinely troubling. But now let us do what honest journalism requires. Let us put the theory on trial. Start with the disallowed goal itself. Everything hangs on it. ESPN's officiating expert reviewed the incident and reached the opposite conclusion from the television pundits. His verdict: the intervention was correct. Disallowing the goal was the right outcome. Here is the reasoning. Atia's foul on Martinez was clear. It happened while Argentina were in an attacking position. It directly created the turnover that launched Egypt's counterattack. Under the laws as written, a foul in the same phase of play that leads directly to a goal must wipe that goal out, no matter how far from goal it occurs. Once the referee saw the replays showing a simultaneous shirt tug and a stamp on the foot, there was no realistic chance he would stand by his original call. Harsh, yes. Heartbreaking, absolutely. But by the letter of the law, defensible. Even Henry Winter, while mourning the goal, conceded it was probably the right decision. Then there is the inconvenient scoreboard problem. The disallowed goal did not actually cost Egypt the lead. Zico scored again 12 minutes later. With 11 minutes plus stoppage time remaining, Egypt led 2-0. Exactly the advantage the conspiracy says they were robbed of. From that position, they conceded 3 times. No referee headed Romero's goal into the net. No video official struck Messi's equalizer. No governing body rose at the far post to meet the cross for Fernandez's winner. Egypt's collapse in the final 11 minutes was a football failure, not an administrative one. And if the fix was in, it was the strangest fix ever arranged. A scripted match does not usually feature the protected superstar missing a penalty and becoming the first player in history to fail twice from the spot. It does not feature the underdog goalkeeper making save after save. The raw numbers tell the same story. Argentina generated an expected goals figure of roughly 2.88 against Egypt's 0.98. They fired 19 shots to Egypt's 5. Over 90 minutes, the champions created nearly 3 goals of quality chances and were denied for 80 of those minutes by one inspired goalkeeper. That is not a rigged beneficiary. That is a dominant team that eventually broke through. Here is the strange part. Forget every replay. Forget every social media argument. Imagine you were the referee with one decision and 30 seconds to make it. Your job is not to please the crowd. Your job is to apply a rulebook that has become so complicated that even the experts cannot agree on what it means. That single moment opens a much larger debate. So where does that leave us? There is no evidence that this match was fixed. No paper trail. No whistleblower. No smoking gun. What there is instead is something arguably more corrosive. A review system so inconsistent that even honest decisions look dirty. The real scandal of Atlanta is not that officials broke the rules. It is that nobody, not the players, not the pundits, not the fans, not even the former professionals paid to explain the game, can tell you where the rules begin and end. How far back can a review reach? One phase. What defines a phase? Nobody knows. Why did Zico's goal get the forensic treatment while the build-up to Fernandez's winner did not? The system offers no clear answer. When a sport's disciplinary technology behaves unpredictably, human beings fill the vacuum with the most dramatic explanation available. The tournament organizers have a commercial interest in their biggest star advancing. Everyone knows it. Every ambiguous decision gets filtered through that knowledge. That is the lesson of Argentina versus Egypt. Not proof of a conspiracy, but proof of how cheaply trust can be spent. For Egypt, this wasn't just another knockout match. It was an opportunity to rewrite the history of African football. They played the match of their lives. They went home with a grievance that will burn for a generation. Argentina survived. Kept the Messi fairy tale alive. Marched on toward a quarterfinal against Switzerland or Colombia. And somewhere between those two truths sits a review room in Atlanta whose decisions will be argued about for as long as this sport is played. Maybe the biggest lesson isn't whether the referee was right or wrong. Maybe it's that football now depends on technology that millions of supporters no longer trust. Once that trust disappears, every close decision becomes another conspiracy. Every marginal call becomes evidence of a hidden agenda. And the beautiful game loses something that no amount of replay angles can ever restore. Was it rigged? The evidence says no. Was it fair? That is a much harder question. A goal of the tournament erased from 80 yards away. A stoppage time appeal that never got a second look. A superstar who keeps landing on the right side of every coin flip except the ones taken from 12 yards. The laws were probably followed. The game still felt broken. And maybe that is the most damning verdict of all. A sport can survive a bad decision. It cannot survive its fans believing the outcome was never in doubt. If you have made it this far, thank you for watching. We hope this breakdown has given you a deeper perspective on one of football's most controversial matches. Until next time, keep asking questions. Because that is the only way the game we love can truly be fair.